to Season 3, Episode 4 of Talkin Baseball, our All-Star Mid-Season Edition. I'm Jason Smith.
I'm Pete Lincoln.
And welcome to the show. We're going to do a couple things today, touch on a couple subjects that we hope you'll enjoy today. And being that it's the midway point of the season, we thought sort of a halfway analysis would be pretty appropriate for the good and the bad of the year so far. And we're going to get into some of baseball's unwritten rules later on in the show too. But first off, before anything, we always have to start with our trivia question.
That's right, trivia. Since this is the All-Star break, this is the 87th All-Star game. Probably the only professional sports All-Star game that draws much national attention. It's a big deal. Football, you hardly even know they're playing. Right. Basketball, the scores are 220 to 210. Right. And hockey, the scores are 15 to 13. Right. So the games don't really matter much. There is one change this year. The result of the All-Star game is not going to determine the home field advantage for the winning team.
Finally.
And the change is now the home field advantage to go to the team with the best record.
Yeah.
Which it should.
Which it absolutely should. Absolutely.
So, and that could be All-American League teams forever or national vice versa. That's the big change. But this All-Star game, actually, people don't know this, was begun in 1933 by the Chicago Tribune. The editor's name was Ward, in conjunction with the Chicago World's Fair, and it was supposed to be a one-shot deal.
Yes, yep.
And it caught on, during the Depression especially, it caught people's fancy at a time when the interest in baseball was dwindling a lot. Babe Ruth was at his end, the Yankees went the powerhouse they were, and it sort of revitalized baseball.
Yeah, it was, and back at, people today can't really relate to this because of all the social media and technology and everything, but back then, you never had a chance to see stars on the other teams or even in the other league because you never even played those teams. So it was a chance for people to get a collection of talent together and look at players they'd never seen before. And if you're a Red Sox fan, when would you have ever gotten to see some superstar for, say, the Cardinals or something like that back in the third? Stan Musial. When would you ever get to see him play? So it caught on for that too. It's a great chance to see superstars you never get to see otherwise.
So appropriately, the only home run in the first All-Star game was hit by Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth, yes it was.
What do you think Red Sox chances are of making it? Last year, Jackie Bradley was in his midst of his streak, and Bogarts in the midst of his streak, and they had. And Betts was having a great year. The three Bs are automatic starters.
Sure.
Who do you think's going to make it from the Sox?
Well, I think Sale and Kimbrel are definites. I think those are two givens. Probably Betts is going to get in. I think he's third in voting right now. I think he may get in on the vote, especially now that Trout's hurt.
Yeah.
I think that opens up a spot for him. I think that's it. I don't think there's anybody you can reasonably pick other than those three. I really don't. So our trivia question today pertaining to All-Star games is, in the 87 All-Star games...
83.
83, that's right. 87 years, 83, because there were some years where there were two, that's right. Believe it or not, there's been one Grand Slam hit in an All-Star game. Who hit the Grand Slam? That's your trivia question
Who's the
for
Grand
today.
Slam hitter?
So that's our trivia today. You can ponder that, and it's somebody, you know the person's name.
Probably
definitely.
know the person's
yes,
name.
You know the person's name.
If you're a Red Sox fan.
Yeah. So given that it's the All-Star break, and actually we're doing this right at the exactly the midway point of the year, we thought we'd run through some of the good and the bad of the Red Sox so far. The overwhelming thing that you can take from this, they are in first place. Warts and all.
Every time I go up to the post office, people say, "What's wrong with the Red Sox? Why isn't so-and-so doing anything?" But as Eckersley said on TV the other day, we're in first place.
We're in first place. So.
And they have a better record at this point by a game or two than they did last year,
which is
when they came in first.
So it's kind of hard to complain.
So I think the problem is that last year we had a feeling that a lot of the players were performing over their capacity, over their expectations, over their heads. This year it's just the opposite.
A lot of people are underperforming.
So many people that you would expect to get something underperforming. So let's just take a run around positions and see how we'd evaluate them.
So do you want to start with positions or pitchers, catchers?
Let's do pitchers last. Do catchers.
Do catchers first? Well, I said this at the beginning of the year, and I think let's get it straight. Last year, Sandy Leon overachieved. He did. I mean, there's no way around that. But I think the catching has been fine. Leon's hit about 250, which is exactly what you'd expect. I think Vasquez has been a little better offensively than they thought he was going to be. That was his concern. His defense has been great, but they were worried that he wasn't going to hit. He's held his own. And when you combine the positions, combine the two of them in a platoon, they're hitting about 260, 270 with 5 or 6 homers at the halfway point. That's about what you want out of catchers. I don't think anybody'd be very disappointed in that.
And they're throwing out a good percentage of base runners.
Yep.
In fact, I think they're way above average with that.
And the pitchers love throwing to both of them, and that's huge. Leone has become Sale's personal catcher. The two of them are inseparable. They've both gotten great praises from the pitching staff and how they call a game, and that's sort of what you want out of a catcher. I mean, any offense you get out of a catcher is a bonus.
So I think the catching position is as much as could have been expected.
Sure.
My only concern is, why doesn't Vasquez have any power?
Yeah.
He's a stocky
He hit his
guy.
first homer the other night, first one of the year.
Doesn't seem to be able to drive the ball at all.
Right.
But
and maybe that'll come with time. Catchers tend to peak a little bit later in their careers, so maybe that'll come with time. He is still only 24, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of catchers don't really fill out and learn to hit for power
they
until they're
do
27,
still have
28.
like Swihart in the wings.
They do.
The experiment of putting him in left field ended up costing him a half a year because he crashed into the wall.
That was silly.
Okay, at first base, all they've had there is Mitch Moreland because for some reason Brock Holt has just vanished with his concussion.
And Hanley hasn't played first
Hanley
because
hasn't
he's
played
been,
first at
for
all.
various reasons.
Moreland he hasn't been Gold Glove at first, but I guess he's been okay.
It's been adequate.
And he's just a frustrating batter to watch. He's going to end up with his usual power numbers, but he strikes out a lot, and he tends not to hit in the clutch. Night before last, he stranded 11 runners in a game. That's almost hard to do.
11.
Stranded 0 for 6, 11 left on base.
And he tends to hit a lot of rollers over to the second baseman too, which would, if you come up with men on base and he can't run, that's an automatic double play. Total rally killer right there. So, I mean, you look at the stats on the surface, they look pretty good, and he has gotten some good homers in there. He does have power, but sort of, I don't know, for a first baseman, they might want a little bit more out of a first baseman than that.
Looking at his overall stats, his average, probably about what you could expect. There's no reason to expect there's going to be any more.
Yeah, he is what he is.
That's right.
And they did not get him to be the starting first baseman, keep in mind, either.
They
He was
brought
sort
up,
of thrown into
they brought
that
up
role.
Sam Travis now to give him some rest because a lefty, not all lefties have to pull the ball.
Right.
It seems like the
Right.
Red Sox, they all have to. He and Benintendi have to pull the ball.
Yeah.
Lefties, I'm lefty. They used to say the little league, everybody switch.
They would go
I
over
hit
to
lefty
right
and I
field.
tried to hit the left field all the time. There's nobody there.
Yeah, right. Wade Boggs, ring a bell, anybody?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
how many singles to left did he get? So you don't have to do that. But
How about second base?
second base, well, I think Petey's tough to gauge because the first thing is, and it's happened again this year, he gets hurt a lot. And that's not going to get any better as he gets older. I mean, he goes, I don't want to say the word, but he goes to the wall every single game that he plays.
Right.
And he's getting to a point where he can't do that anymore. And to ask him to slow down is tough because that's his style. And I think that's going to be a problem going forward. He's been okay, no power, but that's a team-wide thing. I think we're going to get into that later on. His power has pretty much disappeared. He's still a tough out. He'll still give you an 11-pitch at bat.
And he's hitting almost 300.
And he is hitting 290-something. So the average is there, and the doubles power is there. Just the home run power isn't there. And I don't think his defense has declined much at all. I think he's still very good on the defense. He hasn't made an error yet this season, which is pretty good.
I think he's still the premier defensive
Sure,
baseman.
sure.
It's startling. Yeah, he just broke his own Red Sox
Yeah.
record for 100 straight games, which I thought was terrific. To look to see what the major league record was 184.
Yeah.
By the second baseman for the Tigers.
Oh, Lou Whitaker?
No, just recently. I can't think of his name.
Oh, well, we'll look that up. You can look that up on TV
184.
land.
So he's got the rest of the year to catch up.
Yeah, so he's got
It's
a long way
still
to go.
pretty remarkable. Second baseman.
But I think in terms of if they leave him at the top of the order, like a number 1 or 2 hitter, I think you're okay. If you're sliding him further down in the lineup, that's a problem. Because that's not what he does. But I think given his age and his track record of injuries, I think that, again, except for the home run power, I think you've gotten all you can really expect out of him so far. So that was shortstop.
At shortstop, we've stuck with Bogarts all year long. It's a Bogarts year. He gets a lot of singles. He's amazing how he can flare him to right, right him through the hole, keep his average at about 310.
With 2 strikes. With 2 strikes, extraordinary.
His power is not going to be what it was last year when he had 21 homers. He's got, I think, 5 this year.
Yeah.
But he's also a frustrating hitter because he still has that tendency to lunge into the other batter's box.
Yeah, those down and away pitches, he still can't stay off of them.
At least once a game, he just looks foolish at the plate. But he can He's certainly close to an all-star caliber still, and he's still also young.
And he's also, I still think, fourth in the league in hitting.
That's
He's
right.
still right near the
That's
top.
That's right.
So it's hard to complain about getting that kind of offense out of a shortstop.
I would say at second and short, the Sox are as good as they can be expected.
Sure. In fact, I just read something, and this is something else to ponder. Not a trivia question, but just something to keep in mind about how the Red Sox have been. The last 50 years, the double play combo who played the most together was Rico Petrocelli and Mike Andrews. They had like 450 games together. Pedroia and Bogarts are now, I think, at 350 something played together, which is pretty amazing. And you know who they passed who had 340 something together? Jody Reed and Louis Rivera. So ponder that one, how bad those early 90s Red Sox teams were when that was your double play combo.
Raise your hand if you remember either of those guys.
Yeah, right. so we're talking about Red Sox and nitpicking right now. If we were here in the early 90s, it was a whole lot worse. Trust me, the Bush Hobson era was some dark years.
And now we come to the black hole of the Red Sox.
Our
The black hole.
our
Third
favorite third base.
Every game I sit there and say, Travis Shaw, where are you now?
Oh, God. Gee.
The fabulous deal that Dombrowski made to trade Travis Shaw to the Brewers
For Tyler
Thornburg, who has not thrown a pitch all year.
And will not.
And Shaw, at this point, has 17 homers, 53 RBIs, hitting about 295s, leading the Brewers in everything, and could likely be an all-star.
And the Brewers are playing great, by the way.
That's
He's
right.
an MVP candidate at this point because they're surprisingly in first
And
place.
so what we have is sort of a hodgepodge of Moreros and Rutledges.
And to be fair, their top four third basemen, Panda, Holt, Rutledge, and Marco Hernandez, all four of them have been hurt at various times in the year. So you're going to get a black hole when your top four guys are out. I mean, we're down to Devin Marrero, who's great defensively, but he's hitting about 170. And
third base is zero offense.
Zero.
In the major leagues, you can't hide a position.
Right.
And that's going to have to be addressed. But
Yeah.
it's just the thought that we traded away Shaw figuring we didn't need him
because
for a pitcher we didn't get.
Right, it's a pitcher we haven't used yet, and to think that Pando would sort of come back into his own, which I don't think anybody really expected, that he was going to be the player that he was with the Giants, which, to be perfectly honest, was kind of mediocre. It wasn't an
speaking
all-star.
of deals past, we just released Craig finally.
Oh, that was another killer deal.
The third baseman bites the dust.
Yep, paid $10 million a year to play the minors, and then we finally let him go. So I think any team that was 5 deep in the third baseman in the system right now would be having similar problems than the Red Sox. The Red Sox.
So that's certainly a down from last year.
Way down, way down.
Let's do the outfield as a group.
As a group, sure.
Benintendi, and we got Jackie Bradley and Betts.
So I think that, honestly, I think Bradley's really, I think in April people were questioning whether he would ever get back to form because he started out really slowly. He's gotten really hot the last month and a half or so. He's become dependable. He's hit for power, and he's so streaky, but is that going to be a career thing or was he just adjusting? We're not quite sure of that yet. This is really only his 3rd year as a regular player, so we're still sorting a lot of things out, but I don't think they have any complaints about Bradley at the plate. And defensively, he's just unreal. He makes it look so easy.
It's so, the announcers, there's a deep drive, and you look out, and usually you're seeing the outfielders let it, and the numbers on his back, tearing along. He just started that, and then he makes these little catches like this.
And he'll take like 3 strides and already be out in center field.
He's just catching things during batting practice.
Yeah, he makes it look so easy. And he'll come in, and the second baseman or shortstop will be calling for it, and he'll say, "No, I got it." He'll come in and be right behind second base when he catches it. His defense is amazing. And I think they've been okay with him at the plate. They've slowly inched him up in the order to give him more chances. And he's come through. He's hit for some power. So hopefully he'll stay hot the rest of the year. He had a horrible first month, but after that he's been fine.
And he hasn't been trying to pull everything like
which he
before.
was.
He still does to a degree. And in left field, Benintendi was tabbed the Rookie of the Year before he ever played.
Right.
That was totally unfair.
Right, sure.
Look at what he's done so far. He's hitting about 275. He can steal bases. He plays a decent outfield, and he's not Aaron Judge.
No, he's not. No. But he's certainly, for a second, actually, he really is a rookie, even though he played last year.
He is a rookie.
He's still qualified as a
He could
rookie.
very well be the runner-up.
Sure, absolutely good. And he's had his bumps and bruises. He had a terrible May. He got really hot, then he got really cold, and then he sort of adjusted, and he's hitting okay. And I think the problem is that the offense has been so lackluster at times that they've moved him up and down in the order
Right.
to try to kickstart the offense a little
I
bit.
don't think they know where to bat him.
Yeah, and to a rookie, that's especially unfair. I think
That's
a
right.
rookie, you need some stability in there somewhere.
I mean, he has 10 homers. For a guy he's 22, I think, right?
Yes, he is.
So
Yes.
if he ends up the season with 20 or more homers, that's a great
That's
plus.
not he can't really
and
complain about
he's not
that.
a big man.
No, he's not.
So
Yeah, and he can run. I wish they'd run him a little more, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's a team-wide thing. We will complain about.
you look at Mookie Betts' stats; they're wonderful. But last year he was Superman.
Yeah, he was.
He should have been, I think, the MVP.
Absolutely, I
So
agree.
anything less than that makes him look like he's having a down year.
And he's really not.
He's a fabulous outfielder. I think he'd probably make the All-Star team as a sub.
I think he will. And what he's really improved at is, especially the games at Fenway, is going toward the pesky pole.
Right.
How many great catches has he made when he's going to his left into that big sinkhole out in the right field there, and he'll catch it right next to the wall. He's become wonderful defensively, especially at Fenway Park. And he has a great arm too. He has a terrific arm.
And they are fortunate that they have Chris Young in the wings. He can step in and play, and he hasn't got that much playing time because those three guys have all managed to stay healthy pretty much all year.
Sure.
But especially to fill in for Benintendi when you're trying to get the lefties out of the lineup,
Yep.
they drop him and Moreland out. They can put him
he's
in.
a terrific fourth guy. He hits for a little bit of power, and he can play all three outfield positions. He's not going to hurt you anywhere. We talked about that before. That was a great 2-year pickup that Dombrowski did. I mean, you can't fault him for that one. That was a good pickup.
So the outfield's fine. No
Sure.
complaints.
Nothing at all.
No
Can't
complaints.
do much better than that. I don't think any teams would complain if that was the outfield that they had.
Let's go backwards. How about the relief staff? I think that's the biggest surprise of the year.
I think, for the most part, by and large, I think the bullpen has been terrific.
They didn't need Tyler Thornburg.
Yeah, right. Man, imagine that.
We could have still kept Shaw.
Yeah, right. I mean, Kimbrel has been absolutely out of this world. I mean, he's been just downright devastating at times. People just look foolish trying to hit against him. He's been amazing.
2 issues ago, Sports Illustrated did a 6-page article on him.
Yeah,
They
they
say
did.
that it's impossible to hit.
Yeah.
Last year, I think he had a little bit of adjustment coming to the American League, maybe.
And I
because
think
he was wild.
I think he had a knee issue too for a little while. That
now
didn't hurt.
it's almost like they come up and I remember the other night when Bautista was batting against
Oh,
him.
good. He was just clueless.
It's almost like these say, Bob Fell, I don't want to.
I don't want bye. See ya.
2 strikes, I don't want the third.
Yeah, last week the Angels got a run off him. Actually, and it was like, what was that? They actually got a run. I think they've scored 3 runs off him the entire season, and his strikeout rate is actually on the verge of record setting. He has 16 strikeouts per 9 innings.
And he had 4 in 1 inning.
He had 4 in it. Yeah,
4 in 1 inning.
first, yeah, and he had an immaculate. It was a 12 pitch for a strikeout inning, which has never been done before. So they can't complain about him. And I think that I guess this is sort of a criticism of Farrell, I guess. I think it took too long to get. I don't think Matt Barnes is an 8th inning guy. He's certainly dependable. He's got a rubber arm. I think Joe Kelly's the 8th inning guy rather than Barnes. And for some reason, Farrell's insistent on Barnes being his 8th inning guy, which is not a knock on Barnes. I just don't think that's his gig. I think he's a 7th inning guy rather than an 8th inning guy.
I will knock Farrell. I think he gets in his mind Hembry in the 6th.
Yes, yeah, that's
Kelly
what I'm
in the
saying.
7th,
And Barnes in the 8th.
and you can't do that all the time.
No. Oh, well, perfect example was the Royals game a couple weeks ago where Barnes came in and just clearly didn't have it. He threw the ball all over the place, and Sale had pitched a complete game the day before. They had a day off the next day. Empty the bullpen. Use all 5 guys. Use Scott and Abad for the lefties. Bring in Hembry and Kelly and Barnes for the righties. And he didn't do that. And he had to get through 2 innings with 5 guys to get it to Kimbrel, and he didn't do that. So I think you're right. I think Farrell has a little bit of his mindset that's too traditional, I think, when you shouldn't be doing that. He hasn't been using Abad as a second lefty. He's using him as a mop-up guy. Well, what's the point of having 2 lefties if you don't use the lefties to get lefties out? I don't quite understand that. So
The one problem is apparently Kelly cannot go 2 games in a row.
yes, yeah,
Can't go 2
right,
games
can't
in a
do
row.
it. Yeah.
So once they do use him, if the 7th inning comes up, what are you going to do
Right,
then?
but I think he has shown that he can go 2 innings in that one game, so I think that's something where he can take advantage of that, and he hasn't.
You know what else I like about this bullpen? Nobody seems to be in the doghouse.
No, not at all, no.
There's nobody
no.
that's staying away from him.
No,
all the time.
not
They
at
seem to have
all.
confidence in everybody.
Sure.
I think maybe Hembry the least,
Yeah.
but he also can come in and, like the other day, he came in and threw home run ball,
Yeah.
second pitch,
Yeah.
and then was great.
And then he was fine. And to be perfectly honest, how many middle relief guys are really that dependable anyway? I mean, usually those are the 10th, 11th, 12th guys on your staff. If Heath Hembree's your 10th, 11th, 12th guy, you've got a pretty solid bullpen.
And correct me if I'm wrong, aren't they the second best bullpen ERA?
Behind Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland's is better.
Just
yes.
a little behind.
Yeah, not far behind that. Yeah, Cleveland does have Andrew Miller, so let's look at that in mind.
So you can't knock that either. So far, we're not knocking anything except the black hole.
Right, the black hole is it. So when we move on to the starters, here's where you can sort of have some criticism, but there are also some injuries there, so you have to keep that in mind. You
Right.
can't anticipate that. I think Sale has been everything as advertised. I think he's been terrific. He goes out there, and it's not just that he's good. He has an attitude when he goes out there. He has that Pedro attitude that he used to have, that screw you attitude, that, okay, I don't care, I'm getting you out. I don't care how I'm getting you out. And he strikes out a ton of guys. He's intimidating when he does it. He looked fantastic against the Blue Jays the other night. So I think he's been everything that they've anticipated for him. I think he's been terrific.
Even more. His adjustment was amazing. Go from one team to the next.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear him interviewed, he has the perfect baseball.
Yeah, he does.
Perfect
He
baseball
does.
attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember anybody since Doc Holliday with that same kind of attitude.
Yeah,
it's
right.
just stats are window dressing.
Yes,
the
yeah.
W is
Yeah.
all that counts.
It's the
I
win.
care about the team.
Yep.
And you can see him
Yeah.
when he's not pitching, leading the cheers.
Of course he is. Yeah, he is.
But he's
Yep.
real low key about himself.
Yep.
He doesn't get high or low, and I think he's come more and more to understand that even though he can strike everyone out,
He doesn't have
He doesn't have to, or he shouldn't do it too early in the game because it's going to up his pitches.
Sure. Yeah.
Pitch to contact.
Sure.
Get a few outs. But he's been able to get into the 7th, 8th inning.
Every time.
Almost every
Every
time. And I think
time.
the second half you might see a more complete game.
I think so too. And I think that he's also sort of become, and this is sort of a injury that is unfortunate, I think he's sort of taken on some of the younger guys. I honestly think that the reason Eduardo Rodriguez was so good is from watching Sale and learning from him.
Yeah.
I mean, before he got hurt, Rodriguez was on the pace to make the All-Star team. He was terrific the first 2 months of the year, and hopefully he'll come back because he could even slide into your number 3 guy, I think, the way things are going, the way he pitched this year, and he's out with an injury, and hopefully that's not a big deal, but he was terrific when he was...
So they're A+ with their ace.
Yep.
Okay. I think the biggest surprise to me has been Pomeranz.
Yes.
Last year I said, well, he's our number 5 hitter, but he's at least for 5 or 6 innings, although he still
Right.
runs up the pitch count.
Yeah.
He's been deadly.
Yep.
He looks like a kid out there. His little peach fuzz face.
He does.
And
But he strikes guys out.
That's right.
He'll only go 5 or 6 innings, but he strikes out 10, 11 guys every
That's right.
start, and the bullpen's been good, so you can handle having a guy like that who you can sort of bridge the gap the last 3 innings or so.
And it looks like they can count on 15, 16 wins.
Sure, yeah. He's been very surprisingly good. That was a
The
concern.
third pleasant surprise to me at this point is Price. Seems like after all that time off, we figured, well, there goes another 30 million down the drain. It seems like he's getting it together.
Yep, he had one bad start against the Yankees, and other than that, he's been very solid. Very solid.
I think it seems like his confidence is back too.
Yes, yeah.
You could see last year a few times he's out there.
He just got-
please don't hit me, please don't hit me. But
Yeah.
he seems to be challenging guys more, and he's got that after I strike a guy out. That's
Yeah, he's got the
you know.
fist bump, and it seems like he's getting confidence, especially in his fastball,
Right.
because he did not have that last year at times. I don't think he had it in his first couple starts even, but it seems like he's going right after guys, trying to blow
I think
them
he
away
threw
a little
96
bit.
the other day.
Yeah, he did. He's back to where he was in his Blue Jays Tigers days. So I think he'll be fine going forward. I think, and if he's your number 2 or 3 guy, 7 innings, 2 or 3 runs every time, I'll take that. I'm fine with that. I'm your number 2 or 3 guy.
So where's the biggest disappointment in staff?
Well, the biggest disappointment, I mean, there's no way around it, it's got to be Porcello. I mean, he's 4-10, and I understand win-loss isn't everything, but it seems like all the good luck that he had last year has completely reversed, and he's had nothing but horrible luck this year. You know, it seems like every grounder that found its way to Pedroia or Bogarts last year is rolling through the infield instead. Seems like he'll have one horrible inning every game too. 11
Always
innings
early on.
Yeah. The second or third inning, he'll give up 3 or 4 runs and then settle down for a while. But he's just had that one big inning all year. Where he just can't seem to get out of that inning without giving up a bunch of runs, which is kind of frustrating. I don't think the velocity's down at all. I don't think even the strikeouts are fairly close. It just seems that last year everything aligned for him.
Yeah.
And he's not a Cy Young guy year in, year out. He really overachieved last year, but he's better than 4-10 too. So let's keep that in mind. So if he can get back to a semblance of like a mid-3 ERA guy, a number 3 or 4 guy, that's all you can really expect of him, I think.
Yeah, I think everybody seems to feel he must be injured. He claims he's not. And don't forget, he was 9-15 2 years.
Yes, he was. And
He was pretty much a 500 pitcher with the Tigers, too.
He was.
But once a guy wins a Cy Young, you expect him
You
to win a Cy Young.
expectations get raised.
So certainly, he's I think, the biggest disappointment. Of the team.
I think so too. I think so. Well, other than Panda. I think he
Wow.
and Panda. Yeah, well, that's
But you didn't expect it.
right. Yeah. So the number 5 spot is kind of a hole because it was supposed to be Stephen Wright, but he's out for the year. Rodriguez is temporarily hurt, so they've called up Doug Fister for a couple starts. He has, again, 1 bad inning early on, and he's been fine. I mean, he's a number 5 guy. What do you want out of him?
He's had 2 stats.
Yeah, he can't really put too much
The jury
on
is
him.
way out on him.
But if he could pitch like he did 3 or 4 years ago, hey, that's a good pickup because he had a couple really good years.
The big problem is go down to Pawtucket. I checked their stats out yesterday. There's no one on the Pawtucket staff
no
could
one.
possibly help us.
No one. Henry Owens is way far away. Brian Johnson seems to be sort of a finesse lefty that he may be really good or really bad depending on the
one
day.
down there at
There's
all.
no one who's going to be dependable.
So
who
the
can
only
come
thing
up.
they can improve their staff with is a trade. So I would say overall the pitching is almost better than they could have expected.
I think so too.
So,
I think so
where's
too.
the problem then? Why is everybody complaining about their underachieving? Because they're not winning.
Could it be management? I don't know. And it's been a really odd year because at times, I don't, except maybe for Hanley Ramirez, who we didn't get into at DH, who's been a disappointment compared to last
That's
year
right,
especially. But I think other than Hanley Ramirez, nobody has, they've underachieved, but not by a wide margin, but nobody's really overachieved either. Except for the catcher, everyone on the team, the top 7 regulars, their OBPs are all between 350 and 375.
Right.
Every single one of them.
And you know, with Hanley, you remember how many home runs he had the All-Star break last year?
Not many.
8.
8, yeah.
8. And then he ended up with 30. And his attitude seems that you see him in the dugout these days. He's fist pumping and bumping into guys. I think maybe it takes him a half a year to get into it.
Maybe it does. Maybe second half guy.
He's played a lot of seasons.
He's a hot weather guy. Who knows?
Maybe so. And just when you say, oh, you give up on him, then he gets 3 straight doubles and wins a game.
Yeah, and you know, every once a week he'll hit some 450-foot shot, and you say, oh my God, why doesn't he do that all the time? But I think looking overall, it's hard to be disappointed in the record, especially when you consider the first couple weeks of the season, half the team had the flu, you know, and that runs into, you know, they had a series early on where they lost 3 out of 4 to a terrible Tigers team, and when they have a healthy team, that doesn't happen, you know. So I think you kind of have to take it that they're doing fine.
And I don't think this is way of whining or anything. Their schedule this first half has been miserable.
God, awful.
They've just coming off 3 long road trips where they've held their own.
And they were silly road trips too. Like, what was the one when they went? Well, this one is the one that they're doing is Toronto to Texas to Tampa Bay, and they had another one where they went out to, I think, Kansas City or St. Louis and then came back east. It was some bizarre road trip.
So for the second half of the season, they have 10 more home games than away games. A lot of home games in August.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Last August, they played on the road.
The entire month.
The entire month.
Yeah,
So if anything, the schedule's going to help them out just by that.
And I think that ties into and we both hate the unbalanced schedule. And with the unbalanced schedule, you get silly road trips like that because teams only come into town once a year, and you have to sort of figure out logistically how that happens. And you have the interleague happening too. And so, you know, remember back in the day, July used to be spent on the West Coast. The 2 weeks before the All-Star break, you played all the West Coast teams, either home or away. There was the break, and then the second half, you either played them home or away again. All of July was against the West. That doesn't happen anymore.
And the games ended at 1:30.
Yeah, they went 2-11 on many of those road trips, if you remember. Those 70s and 80s teams where they'd go to Seattle and get swept, and Anaheim, and oh God, those were brutal.
Actually, they're pretty well through the NL schedule, too.
They really are.
They've got a couple games at home against the Cardinals left, and I think they go to Cincinnati.
They do go last week of the season. They go to
So
Cincinnati.
they play the
That's
worst
right.
team in the league the last week of the season.
I'll take that.
And then they play Houston.
Houston at the end, and hopefully by then Houston will have locked up the division, and they won't care about that last weekend. Which I think they have a 12-game lead right now, so I think they pretty much have that locked up.
So just to conclude, summing up where we are right now, it's very likely that the Sox will make some deal because I think a lot of teams will. I know the Yankees will.
Sure. Yeah.
Some deal to bolster this squad by the end of July.
Sure. And it'll probably be third base or pitching, which unfortunately that's what the Yankees need too. So
They obviously need an RBI man, but I think probably they'll go after a third baseman.
some third baseman.
They might
some-
make. I've even heard blockbuster things like getting Josh Donaldson.
Yes. Yeah.
Who's that? Somebody else that's an F.
Todd Frazier from the White Sox, who's had a bad year, but he's hit 30, 40 homers in the past many seasons.
His bad year is better than anybody who gets thirds.
Yes,
time.
right.
And they might be able to pick him up because the White Sox are definitely going to
They're out of it. Yeah, the White Sox are terrible.
get him without screwing some other position.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's possible.
So those are two possibilities.
So
I've
look
heard.
forward to that, folks. By
So-
our next show, there might be a new face.
Or a couple. Who knows? It might be a couple. And as good as a bullpen's been, you can always use another seventh, eighth inning guy. Those always happen at the trade deadline too. So that's our analysis of the Sox. Whether you agree or disagree with us, feel free to comment and let us know.
Give us a call.
Yes. Right. So moving on, we're going to talk about
There's been a
second
lot of
point.
talk lately about what they call baseball's unwritten rules. Unwritten rules means they're simply not in the yearbook, but they are, I guess, an etiquette. I
Sure,
guess is the best
yeah.
way to put it. A way to treat the game with respect. That's another
Sure.
thing they say.
It's sort of like the kangaroo court back in the day. Stuff like
What
that.
is it that you can or can't or should or shouldn't do in the course of playing the game? So there are several particular areas that we sort of isolated, and there's two sides to them all. But
Sure.
we'll see.
Yes.
Let's start with the most famous one, or the most talked about one, is protecting the hitter eye for an eye. Explain
Sure.
that.
So, for whatever reason, a guy on your team gets hit. Say Pedroia gets hit by a pitch, and the other team thinks it's intentional. Well, that team is then expected to go and hit someone on the other team. The
Retaliation.
Yeah, retaliation. The
Retaliation.
pitcher is supposed to hit someone, and it's supposed to be someone of sort of equal value, let's say. If Pedroia gets hit, you don't go hit their backup catcher. You hit their second baseman or one of their all-star players, just as a way to even things up. So, and that's sort of an unwritten rule that's something you do. It's called protecting your teammates. Well, that's sort of become a lost part of the game because the umpires have been instructed to crack down on things like that. They're supposed to issue warnings after the first hit, and the way contracts are, you don't want people to get hurt, and people have buddies on the other team now because of free agency. It's not the rivalry that it used to be, and so I think that's sort of falling by the wayside a little bit, but you're still expected to do it, and you're frowned upon by your teammates for not doing it.
No, that's right. I know the umpires are trying to put a huge clamp on it. They're trying to protect the players because if a star player gets hurt, it cuts into the revenue for the team. But the other night, leadoff batter got hit, and then Pedroia took one square in the back.
Yeah.
Both sides got warned. Pedroia's, he got hit, not because they were trying to hit him, but because the pitcher couldn't get the ball over the plate. And he screamed out, throw a
strike.
Throw a strike, will you?
And he used the word Petey always uses.
Yeah. And so both sides got warned. And Farrell came out and says, what are you warning us for?
Yeah,
this guy can't pitch. Why don't we get warned? So now if anybody throws a bad pitch, he's going to get thrown out of the game. I think that is something very vastly different from the old days.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Throwing beanballs was standard procedure.
Sure.
If you crowded the plate a little bit, you could count on it.
Oh, yeah. And Satchel Paige used to talk about throwing the bow tie, which means you threw it right over here. Throwing the bow tie.
Sal Madley
Yes.
was a great pitcher. His nickname was the Barber because he gave you a close shave every time you stepped in. And there was a fellow back in the 30s, I believe this is a true story, named Rube Waddell. Couldn't stand the guy in the other team, so he hit him. When he goes on first base, he hit him again. He threw over and nailed him a second time. So that down and dirty aspect of hitting players has definitely been mollified over the current time.
And it used to be Bob Gibson was the classic. If you hit a homer off Bob Gibson, the next guy was going down. And it wasn't in, it was at your head. And that's just the way he was. So, and nowadays that would not happen. You'd be suspended, you'd be fined. They're trying to, especially balls at the head, they're really, really trying to curtail that.
And it isn't necessarily that particular game.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the Sox were playing Baltimore early in the year. Machado got hit in the head.
Yep.
All the rest of the series, who's going to get
Who's gonna get hit? Who's gonna get hit? Sure.
You don't know what's going to come up. But it seems to be sort of de rigueur. If one of your guys gets hit and you think there's any possibility it was intentional,
Sure.
you have to retaliate.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And if you don't do that, you're a wimp.
It's
you're an
frowned
outcast,
upon.
it's frowned
Yep, yep.
upon.
You're not backing up your teammates.
So that's it's sort of eye for an eye
Sure.
theory or
Yep.
something.
And tying into that, backing up the teammates, another one of the unwritten rules is if it does escalate and there's a fight, what are you supposed to do? You are, no matter what, if you're in the dugout or the bullpen, you're supposed to run out and protect your guys. And 99% of the time, it just turns into a little jaw thing, and there's no contact. They just sort of bark back and forth at each other. But you are expected to go out and protect your guy in case something happens.
I've seen times the guys come running, just kidding each other.
Oh yeah, they're kind of elbowing each other. The bullpen guys kind of trot in like this.
And
Oh
the
yeah,
crowd
you know
all
it.
jumps up and screams and yells. They love a fight.
But once in a while, there is a fight. Who can forget in the playoffs last year where the Odor versus Batista match, where they replayed Batista getting clocked about 20 times from different angles like this. And again, we talk about this all the time. It's entertainment, okay? That was entertaining, whether you liked it or not. It was entertaining.
Oh, there's been some classics. I remember Billy Martin went out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
hit a Cubs pitcher, broke his jaw. He was out for the year. One shot, boom.
Yeah, well, oh, Bill Lee. Bill Lee got hurt in a scrum. Yeah, sure.
Pete Rose took on some guy in the second base. He slid into him. The guy took exception to it. They're rolling around.
Oh, Fisk and Pinella. I mean,
Yeah,
it was like.
So there have been some classic fights.
Yeah, and even back in a lot of you remember when the Sox and for some reason Tampa Bay got into it with the Red Sox and they hated Brian Daubach for some reason. Remember that? So they all went after Daubach
And they hated Pedro, too.
And yeah, they hated Pedro. So Pedro hit Gerald Williams. There was a big scrum and there were suspensions and fines and everything like that. And in the old days that just would have been part of the game. Now it's just. Now it's a big deal and you have to discipline people. And so, but what happened is everybody backed everybody up. That's what happened when there was a fight. You go out and protect your guy.
Interestingly, it's the only sport that's allowed.
Right, yeah.
Football, basketball, or hockey, you come off the bench, you're automatically suspended.
Yeah, hockey, they let the guys go until they fall down. Right. But it's just the two guys. Right.
No one can join in.
Right.
And anyone comes off the bench, you're out of the game.
Sure.
Automatically.
Yeah.
And football fighting is sort of silly.
Yeah, you're covered in everything.
You're hurt.
And basketball, say basketball, you get punched, they give you technically get thrown out of the game. But so that's another unwritten rule is that you are supposed to back up your guy no matter what. Even if you're not playing, if you're on the bench.
If a guy is hit and he charges the mound, the catcher is bound to chase after him.
Oh,
Veritek was great. He did the open field tackles, no problem.
And we were saying back in '87, John Marzano was a rookie, and he ran out and tackled the guy going to the mound in full catcher's gear, and all the veterans on the team instantly praised him and said, "Oh, that's what you're supposed to do. Way to go, kid!" So as a catcher, you have sort of a double duty there to take on the batter.
Fans out there might remember early in this year there was a fight, and Buster Posey did not chase after the batter because apparently he had been instructed by management to stay clear of any fights because he's
injury prone. Mm-hmm.
But he got criticized by the talk shows. Why isn't he going out there?
Yeah.
So unless the pitcher was Dave Stieb, you were supposed to protect your own guy.
Dave Stieb, the Blue Jays just sort of decided to let out. Go tackle.
Go hit him.
Go get him.
Hit him for us.
Oh, that was Dave Stieb, my God. Remember, 2 starts in a row, he lost a no-hitter with 2 outs in the ninth, and his own teammates were cheering this. Oh, good, he didn't get it.
Perfect game 2 times in a row, lost it with 2 outs, and they said, oh, good, we don't like this guy.
Oh, Dave, no, that's a great example.
Now, another thing that has been called disrespecting the game is showing off. The most recent one I can remember is last year when Jose Batista hit a home run in a playoff game. And he stood there and looked, he took the bat and went, flipped it off. Like this. Oh, did he get crucified?
He did. Well, Manny used to too. Remember, Manny would hit the homer and he'd stand in the batter's box and kind of go like this if he knew it was
the classic
gone.
one when he did when he ended the Angels season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he just stood like that.
They just put out a bobblehead of him and that's it, standing there like this. Is that showmanship or is that disrespect? I think it's showmanship if he's on your team.
Sure, it is disrespected.
You're the other team.
Sure, yeah. Well, and again, it ties back into this is entertainment.
Right.
So where does the entertainment cross the line into showing up the other team? Well, my opinion about that is you don't want to get shown up, then play better. I mean, that's my opinion. Right. Don't give up a gopher ball if you don't want to get shown up. I mean, that's my opinion of it.
And a lot of them make little trademarks for themselves.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
And Canasio runs the base
Sure.
flap down.
Or Fernando
So-
Rodney does the arrow thing.
Shooting the arrow into the air. Way back fans remember Dick Raditz when he struck out, threw his arms up into the air like this.
Yeah.
I was at a game when the Yankees were playing the Red Sox, and Jim Bouton closed out the game for the Yankees with a victory, and he threw his arms up all the way to the dugout, just
Right.
making fun
Right.
of Dick Raditz doing it.
Or Eckersley used to do. Remember, Eck would strike out a guy and he'd point at him and everything like that. And it was entertainment. That's what it was.
That's
And I'm sorry, if that's going to help somebody perform better on the field, then do it. Go ahead. I mean,
Right.
go ahead. So, and the funny thing is that when you are the player that's making the achievement, that's doing the hitting the home run or striking somebody else, you're not supposed to show any emotion, but everybody else can. Your teammates in the dugout can go nuts, and nobody cares. It's so
if
weird.
you've done something remarkable,
Yeah.
you can't help but maybe do it. Gibson's home run of Eckersley is most noted for the
For the fist pump, he's going like this
That's
whole
the
way
thing that
around.
made
Sure.
it so great that he comes out with no legs and hits a home run off the best reliever in baseball.
Yeah.
What's he just walk around like a stoic?
Or Joe Carter when he hit the home run for the Blue Jays and won the series.
Touch
He's
the ball,
he's
Joe. You'll
leaping
never have
around
to
like this.
leaping around like
Okay, wouldn't you do the same thing? I mean,
Sure.
come on, give me. You're supposed to win. I mean, that's sort of.
I remember when Lombard pitched his no-hitter. Oh no, it wasn't no. When he closed out the playoff game, and he had a 3-2 count. If the guy walked, he was going to tie the game. He started doing this. He was criticized for maybe making vulgar gestures.
Or Derek Lowe got criticized for doing some vulgar gesture, supposedly.
That's right.
So, which is kind of silly when you think about it. But it's supposed to be entertainment.
I think it's sour grapes to a degree.
I think so,
I
too.
think the three Red Sox outfielders that do the little dance is cute, but you guarantee if they start doing that in the playoffs,
Somebody's going to have an
yeah,
issue
yeah.
with it. Oh yeah. So yeah.
we'll see.
But that's a really good one. Is at what point does it cross the line? We don't think it crosses the line ever, unless you're out and out, saying you stink, to somebody. It doesn't cross the line.
Now the next one is showing up the other team by running up the score. Now there's a mercy league, mercy rule in Little League, even in high school, but this is professional sports. I can distinctly remember, I think we were at the game, weren't we, when the Red Sox got 14 runs in the first inning,
Yep.
and the first 10 men up scored against the Marlins.
I was going to mention that.
We ended up beating them like 24-3, and our manager went over and apologized to the other team.
And what's interesting about that, it was Grady Little,
Yeah.
and the corollary of this, which goes to show how you never ever give up on a game. The next night, the Red Sox were ahead 9-2 in the 8th inning. You could see Grady in the dugout doing this. Slow it down, whatever. Lo and behold, the Marlins get 4 in the 8th and 4 in the 9th on a Mike Lowell grand slam. The Marlins win the game 10-9. They take the series and they go on to win the World Series. And the team pointed to that game that was like a unifying thing. We can come back from any deficit. And how much did the Red Sox lose the division by that year? 1 game.
That's right.
So
Right.
never, ever, ever let
this
up
is
the
pro
gas.
sports. I mean, after all, if you're at bat, if you get a hit, it's your batting average. You're going to make it out intentionally.
Sure, yeah.
So they get their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
If they bring in a position player to pitch, you're going to ease up on him.
So what? No, of course not.
Pro sports.
Pro sports, suck it up.
As Jason just said, play better.
Right. You don't want to have the score rung up on you? Okay, then pitch better.
If you give up 20 runs, possibly you stink.
Yeah, possibly your pitching staff is not very good. I mean, so that's sort of what I don't understand at all. Run up the score.
There are a few things I can see. Like, if you're ahead by more than, say, 6 or 7 runs, you're not supposed to steal.
Or you're not supposed to take a walk if you're up by like 10 runs.
Or
You're supposed
try to
swing the
score
bat.
on an intentional. Well, but even that, though, if you're on third base and the guy hits a fly ball and you don't try to score, you're costing him an RBI.
I mean, sure. Yep. Absolutely. So it's
You shouldn't bunt. There's a lot of things, if you're way ahead, you shouldn't try to do something you don't need to do. But like in Fenway, no lead is safe.
no lead.
No
Absolutely.
lead in any park is
Yeah,
safe.
absolutely. We've seen the Sox blow some pretty big leads over the
What
years.
they can do is put in subs.
Right.
That's legit.
Right.
You put in all the second string guys. They're still major leaguers.
Sure.
But you pull out your stars and put them in.
Sure.
That's kosher to do that.
That's sort of waving the white flag, I guess you could say.
But stealing when you're way ahead, if somebody wants to run up his stats, Ricky Henderson was.
Oh, he was the master, 11-0. He'd still steal 2 bases.
He still
He
after the
didn't
game's over.
care. Yeah. And before it began. There are a few others like. I don't know. I just think with that whole like not running up the score, the celebrate, it sort of takes the fun out of the game.
Sure.
You know, I don't know. And it happens, like you said, all the way down to Little League where they have the mercy rule and you're not supposed to celebrate, you're not supposed to show up the other team. And
Well,
it's
you know,
sort of,
we live in a PC
yes,
age.
you're right. Mm-hmm.
And everybody's a winner.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody gets a medal. Everybody's is just the last winner, not
Right,
the losers.
right.
And I think that's part and parcel of it.
I think it is
That,
too.
that you know, it's not fair for you to beat up that other team.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you're better, it's not fair for you to
They're
beat
all
them by a
professionals
lot.
making millions of dollars.
Yeah,
you know.
so, you know, hey, you know, if you want to pay me $1 million and I'll go out and lose 20-0, I'm okay with that. But, you know,
Look, this comes to the last one now. This is kind of a funny one.
Yeah.
What they sort of call unmanly play.
oh yeah, right.
Unmanly play. No hitters are a big deal.
Right.
Now here's an unwritten rule. If a pitcher in your side is pitching a no hitter, even more so a perfect game,
Yeah.
you don't talk.
Don't talk to him.
Don't talk.
Let him go. Just
And this even extends to the fans. Many times I've been watching a no hitter at home. I say he's got a no hitter. Don't say anything.
don't do that. Don't do that.
He's only 2,400 miles away.
Right, yeah.
You might
And
jinx
the
him.
announcers would for a long time wouldn't say anything. And you look at and the guy is by himself on the bench. No one's even close to him. He's sort of just in his own thoughts and whatever. And I think who was it who had the no hitter? Was it Derek Lowe who had it? And he went up and actually talked to some of his teammates. They're going, "Gee, don't do that." They're just walking away from him because he didn't know the unwritten rule. You're not supposed to do that.
There's a fabulous photo of Don Larson, who pitched the perfect game in the World Series. It's taken about the 8th inning. And everybody is scrunched down to the right side of the bench.
Right.
He's sitting all alone up the other side.
Right.
And he thought he had done something. He wasn't, apparently, said so, wasn't aware he had the perfect game for quite a while. He
Right.
thought maybe he'd walk
He
somebody.
didn't even realize it.
Oh, what have they got against me? Or they thought he was going to pull him out of the game.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
You have a perfect game.
It's like he has a body odor. He's sitting over here and they're all down here somewhere. But don't talk during a no-hitter. Don't say
don't
anything
even
to
mention
him.
it, nothing at all.
Nothing, can't do that.
Yeah. And at the same time, with a no-hitter, we sort of alluded to this before, some people think you shouldn't bunt to break up a no-hitter,
Oh.
which, I'm sorry, okay? It just happened to Kershaw a couple weeks ago. A guy bunted in the 6th inning, no less. It wasn't even close to a no-hitter. And it led to a 3-run rally that tied the game. It was only a 3-0 game. And isn't your job to win, to get on base, to try to rattle the other pitcher? I don't care if you have a no-hitter. Now if it's an 11-0 game,
Right.
different
That's
story, whatever. But you still have a chance to win that game. You're only in the 6th inning. Go ahead and bunt. You're supposed to win.
Go take a list. Look at the list of no-hitters of all time. Most of them are 3 or 2 to 1 to nothing.
Sure they are. Yep.
Most of them, close games. So any one of those, you get a bunt, he throws the ball away,
Yeah.
on second base, bloop single, it's tied.
And it's a tie game. Sure. It's your job to win.
But somehow they figure if you do that, now if you bunt in the first inning, it's okay. But later on in the game, it's not okay. And that is even carried to some ridiculous things. A few years ago, Mike Messina had a perfect
Oh,
game
that's right. That's right.
going against the Red Sox at Fenway Park with 2 out in the 9th inning. And Carl Everett was put in as a pinch hitter, not the favorite of all the Red Sox fans, but he had a little blooper in the right to break it up. So Messina's perfect game is now just another one hitter.
One hitter. Yeah.
And everybody said, you shouldn't have put in a pinch hitter at that point. You know, why would you try to break it up at this point?
It was a 1-0 game.
Right.
It was, of course
Right.
you're going to try to get your best players out in a 1-0
And of
game.
course, I remember this is the one. Even my father was a diehard fan. Bewailed when Pete Rose had his 44 hit streak broken against Atlanta back in the day. He complained after the game the pitchers were trying too hard to get him out to break up his streak.
Isn't that your job as a pitcher to get guys out? When you're supposed to groove one because he's Pete Rose?
Complaining about unmanly play.
So
all these things are what they call unwritten rules. There's a lot of unwritten strategy rules too. You never swing an 0 never throw a strike on an 0-2 pitch.
Right,
You
yeah.
never make the first out of the game at third base. A lot
Right.
of things like that. But these are things that they call unwritten rules.
Yeah.
And look for them, folks, out there.
Oh, yeah.
You see things like this happen. Next time an argument starts between the pitcher and the batter, 50 guys run out in the field and stand around. They delay 20 minutes. They all go back.
And listening to Jerry Remy when he's announcing those games is really insightful because he's from the old school when there were the rivalries. He didn't talk to the other team. So he has a perspective on a lot of those unwritten rules and what you're not supposed to do and what you are supposed to do. And he makes no bones about it too. He said, we wouldn't have done that back in the day. No, never would have done that.
And back in his day too, if somebody on the other team had gotten hit by a pitch, you didn't dig in against Nolan Ryan.
No.
You didn't dig in against Randy Johnson.
Or Ron Guidry.
You had springs on your feet.
Yeah.
Leap out of the way.
Right. Yeah, you knew it was coming. So, and again, I think it just goes back to the whole PC, nobody, and a lot of it too is that you don't want people to get hurt. It's an age of superstar contracts. Remember when Nomar got hit by the pitch and he hurt his wrist, and honestly, he was never the same after that.
Right.
That changed his career when he got hit in the wrist. And you don't want your superstar guys to get hurt because guess what? That's what sells tickets. The superstars are what get people in the park. And that's who you want to see play.
And another problem now is so many pitchers throw so hard.
Yes. Yeah.
Throwing 95 was commonplace, but
it wasn't.
It wasn't in the days. There were a few that did. Yep. So if you get hit by a pitch now in a vulnerable spot, it's going to damage you.
Even when Clemens was with the Red Sox, remember his fastball was what, about 94, 95? That was the premier fastball in the league then. That was only 30 years ago.
Right.
Now you have relievers. Joe Kelly throws 100 every pitch. So it's just sort of the natural progression of the athlete that's happened over the years that it's become dangerous to hit somebody.
That's right.
Yeah. You got hit by Louis Tion. You just kind of rubbed your elbow and moved on to first. He threw 78. Oh yes, that's right.
You don't rub where you got
hit. You just suck it up. Suck it up and take your base and go down to first.
Don Baylor got hit like 250 times. It was like shoe fly.
Yes.
That's an unwritten rule. Don't ever rub it. Don't go, that hurt.
Yeah.
Rub it up.
You just suck it up. Now when you're when you go into the clubhouse, you can scream and curse all you want about how it hurts, but don't do it on the field.
So I hope you enjoyed all this and look for this stuff when it's going on.
Yeah, it's something. It's almost a game within a game to watch some of these things.
So we're going to wrap up with the answer to our trivia question.
Yes.
The only Grand Slam ever hit in an All-Star game, 87 games, was hit by Freddie Lynn when he was playing for the Angels against Adley Hammaker in a game that the Reds, the American League won 12-0, something like that.
I think it was 12
13-3. 13-3 was.
And it was about the only time in about a 15-year span that the American League won. It was a big deal because the National League won 70s and 80s. The National League won every single year. So, in fact, I think he kind of ruined Adley Hammaker's career. Right. He was never the same after that All-Star game.
I think he wishes he'd stay with the Red Sox.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a perfect park, perfect team, perfect atmosphere.
So anyway, Freddie, wherever you are, we salute you.
We miss you, Freddie. You should have stayed with us.
So that's it for this edition.
Hope you enjoyed the All-Star Mid-Season edition, and as always, reach out to us. Any comments, questions? We always are open to new ideas and new people to interview, things like that. Whatever you'd like to see, let us know.
So thanks again, Jake.
See you at the park.
Great show, and we'll see you all in on.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today. To contact us, you can call 617-763-3018 or email us at lunenburgaccess@gmail.com. Thank you.